Today, we're making some incredible looking coasters out of a $1 piece of wood. For this project, I'm using a piece of aromatic cedar that was an offcut from my local wood shop. This wood looked great even before I started working with it, with its contrasting red and white. But now, let's turn it into something truly special. The first thing that I did was mark up the piece into three 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch squares. I marked the center of each soon-to-be coaster so I could set up my CNC machine for engraving. Once it was all laid out, I went ahead and clamped the piece onto my machine. This is a entry-level hobby-grade machine which I've linked in the description. I have some other videos about it on my channel if you're interested. But anyway, the hold-down clamps that came with this machine certainly weren't great, but I made do with what I had, and I was able to get my piece nice and square and nice and solid to the machine table. Next, I went ahead and centered my machine over the workpiece to tell it where to start. Once I was happy with the start location, I went ahead and set that as my 0 point, and I was ready to start engraving. At this point, I already had my design, my Cash's Custom Shop logo, all programmed, and I just needed to send it and wait for the results. This was the first cut that I was going to make with this machine with a nice piece of material, and I was quite excited. I'm cutting out this design with an 1/8 inch V-bit cutter, which allows for a nice angled wall engraving. Once the thing was up and running, it was super satisfying to watch, and the machine seemed to do a great job engraving this cedar. I will say that my feed rate seemed to be just a little bit high in some cases, so the tool was moving a bit too fast through the wood, but I'll show you what I did to fix that soon. Let me say, they weren't kidding when they made the name aromatic cedar. This stuff smells incredible. Anyway, once I was done with my initial engraving, I went ahead and vacuumed off the chips. I noticed that the engraving looked good, but not great due to the fast feed rate. To fix this, I went ahead and ran the design again in the exact same location, which helped clean up the edges and made the design look super crisp. I ran the design twice more in the 2 other areas that were soon to be coasters, and I have to say, I was pretty happy with this result. And now it was time to chop up the stock so that I had coasters rather than just a board with logos on it. To do that, I went ahead and used a chop saw. I will note that I didn't leave extra room for the blade's width on my initial markup, which I should have done to get them all perfectly square. Anyway, I went ahead and chopped up my piece into coaster-sized pieces, and I did get a little bit of burning on the edges. Once again, I will say that when you're cutting this stuff does smell great, and it is a lot of fun, and it's pretty easy to work with, but it does create a lot of superfine dust, so just be careful if you're working on this. Next, I went ahead and used a palm sander to remove the burn marks from the edges. I also hit the faces to remove the marks left from when I centered up my boards, and also to break off any chips that were left after engraving. I did a little bit of extra sanding on the corners to help round them and give the coasters a rounder, softer feel. Once I was happy with the shape, there was just one thing left to do, and that thing was to kindly ask you to hit the like button on this video. That way more people could see projects just like this one, and more people can enjoy this kind of video. Anyway, the last thing that I had to do was finish the coasters. To do this, I went ahead and used True Oil. This is a wipe-on oil that seals the wood and really brings out the color and definition. After just one coat, the cedar went from looking good to looking truly incredible. The red became super defined, and the light parts of the wood created awesome contrast. I was really happy with this. At this point, I decided to actually only finish one coaster this way so I could experiment with the other 2, which you'll be seeing in a future video. Subscribe so you don't miss it. After a few more light coats of True Oil, this thing was looking absolutely great, and I was really happy with it. I'd say that this was a success for my first engraving project with this machine, but let me know what you think down below. That'll wrap up this project. Don't forget to like this video if you haven't already, and I hope you stick around for the next one. Take care.